Amanda Cherry is a Seattle area queer, disabled author of novels, TTRPGs, screenplays, and short fiction. And Dungeon Squirrelers cast member streaming on Twitch. Her nonfiction writing has been featured in toshstation.net. Let me know if that's the wrong pronunciation, Amanda. 1138.com and StarTrek.com. Amanda is a member of SAG-AFTRA and Broad Universe. Amanda, it's yours.
All right, it's Toshi Station. If you're a Star Wars nerd, you know that. They sell power converters, and we did some pop culture reporting there for a while during the years of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. As Sarah mentioned, tonight I'm going to be reading from Time. And again, this is a book wherein we have time travel and a second chance romance. The thing practically named itself. There is a first time for everything. If you enjoy the three characters that you're about to meet, my giveaway tonight is the short story collection called A Foul in Affairs, which exists in this same universe and actually centers around the three characters you're about to meet. So if you like anything that you hear tonight, you definitely want to enter the giveaway because you will be getting more of them. Also, I want to quickly plug the fact that that short story collection puts the Ruby Killingsworth books in best series contention for Seattle Worldcon in 2025. And there is nothing I want more in the world than to go to that Hugo Losers party next year. So please remember that. You see, you laugh, but I mean it. So yeah, that is what we are doing. What I'm going to tell you about tonight is that the scene I'm going to read you, it's right at 75% of the way through the book, but it is my favorite scene in the book. I used to not read it because I was like, ooh, spoiler. But this book is a second chance romance. Everybody knows that these two characters are going to like have a moment at some point. And I wrote 120,000 additional words so people could read this scene. And so I'm going to read it to you now. What you need to know is they've been chasing these time travelers around for 75% of the book at this point. They've got a bunch of young, hip, cool superheroes that have been helping them out with it. They've followed this guy to Texas that they think is a lead on the time travelers. They're in a hotel suite in the middle of the night. My girl Ruby, who you see there on the screen, she's been talking to these other heroes, and my precious cinnamon roll hero, Jacob, who's been having big feelings, knocks on the door. The other heroes hightail it out of the room, leaving the two of them alone for one of the first times since the book has started, and they're going to have a moment. So here we go. He's begun to spill his feelings, but he won't spill the scotch, I promise. So you were back in my life, and I figured things would, I don't know, naturally progress maybe. And maybe they have in a way, but I've been thinking about it a lot, and I know things aren't going to just happen all on their own. I couldn't figure out what I could do that might move things forward. Big damn hero, short on grand romantic gestures. Who'd have thought? Turns out I'm kind of a coward, he said. Must be, Ruby replied, leaning forward to place her glass on the table in front of her. She folded her hands in her lap and shrugged. You had 2 years, Jacob. You could have found a way to say something. He tensed his jaw and knocked back another belt of scotch. I'm saying something now? Ruby shook her head and stood up again. She crossed her arms over her chest as she looked down at him. You know I'm seeing someone. The realization hit Jacob like a brick upside the head. Vivian? He stammered. It was a question, but it wasn't. It had been as plain as day had it only ever occurred to him to consider it. He knew the two of them had been in touch, and that Vivian had spent the night in Ruby's place just a couple of weeks ago. When he thought about it, everything about the two of them together made sense. He was sweating all of a sudden, his head swimming with the realization, and with a series of mental pictures he couldn't help his brain conjuring up. I'm sorry, he said. I'll go. I didn't mean... But before Jacob could finish his sentence, Ruby was gesturing for him to stay seated. She had her phone in her hand, perched atop her upturned fingers. It was barely a moment before the brief sound of a ring gave way to a familiar voice. Hey, you! Vivian said. How's Texas? It's hot, Ruby replied. And it's after midnight, Vivian said back. You should be sleeping. You know you're not well yet, and... Ruby interrupted her before she could get any farther into her expression of care and concern. "You're on speaker, V." "Oh?" Vivian asked, sounding intrigued. "And why is that, pray tell?" It was clear to Ruby by her lover's tone that Vivian was expecting the answer to be something salacious. This was going to be a fun surprise. "Because Jacob is in my hotel room," she answered. "He is? And how did that happen? Would you believe he knocked?" "Really?" Vivian's voice had a fake incredulity that told Ruby everything she needed to know about Vivian's opinion on her guest. Yes, this was a fun surprise. "He didn't break down your door insisting you were in need of rescue?" "Alas, no," Ruby replied. "That particular fantasy will have to wait for another day." "Sad." Vivian paused, and there was the sound of her drinking something, probably bourbon. "So, what's he wearing?" "Half a tux." "Ooh, your favorite. You gonna take it off him?" "I'm considering," Ruby answered. "Thought I'd get your opinion on the matter first." "Are you planning on inviting Loki?" "Oh, no. Even if I wanted to, Loki won't set foot in Texas. Something about an angry mob and a Bible college. They've been a little light on the details." "So, just the two of you then?" "That's the idea." "Pics or it didn't happen," Vivian teased. "I ought to snap one just now," Ruby said. "Jacob has turned the most delightful shade of scarlet." "Oh, I bet. Hello, Jacob." Hi. Vivian," he said. His cheeks were bright red, and it seemed he couldn't figure out what the hell to do with his hands. "You two enjoy yourselves," Vivian said. "And you'll call me when you get home tomorrow?" "You know I will." "All right then," Vivian said. "Have a good night. I'll talk to you tomorrow." Vivian hung up, and Ruby slipped her phone back into the pocket of her dress. She snatched her glass from the table, then turned away from Jacob, taking several steps toward the hallway before turning back. "Well?" she said to Jacob, frowning. "Are you coming?"